Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Apollo 7, and this is Starter Edition, where we learn the core mechanics of StarCraft because you want to launch your career and you want to be a better player. So in tonight's episode, we're going to be looking at purely the Terran race. We're going to be looking at the units, and we're going to be looking at the buildings that make up the Terran race, and maybe a little bit of strategy on exactly what we use those for. But we're not going to be going to any details as normal on exact build orders. We're just going to be looking at those core mechanics. So I'm just going to start up just a plain game here with no one playing because we're going to spend a lot of time just looking at these very specific units. So why would someone want to play Terran? Terran is the very first race that most players start on, because if you did the starter edition before you actually bought StarCraft II, it's the only race that you could play as, because it's the main race of the Wings of Liberty, the first expansion of StarCraft II, and so they're the main focus of that campaign, and they're the only race that you could play as in any of the custom games. When you first start, you can't play as Protoss, you play against Zerg. So it's the very first race a lot of people start as. And it's also the most familiar of all the races. Being a humanoid race, a lot of the buildings and a lot of the units sound very familiar. So it makes it very easy for players to get in. So as always, we start our game with our town hall for the Terran. It's called the command center. And we have 6 SCVs. These are our main little workers here. I'm going to start them mining on our mineral patch here and start collecting those. And so our command center is our first main building, and this only makes one unit, and that is the SCV. So I'm going to go ahead and start making some SCVs here, and I have them start mining right away as soon as they come out. Like all of our buildings, we can queue those up, and I can go ahead and, if I have the resources, queue up extra ones. See, I'm not enough minerals, but now I'm at 50 minerals, and I can get those up. So our SCVs take exactly that, 50 minerals, to make one SCV, and they count towards one of our supply. So as I build those out, I get more and more SCVs. I'm going to be mining faster and faster. So it's very important that you continue to make SCVs while you're playing. Even while you start creating other units, you want to keep on making those SCVs. So I'm going to take one of our SCVs here, and I'm going to pull him off the line, and I'm going to start him building some of our first buildings. So our very first building that we want to make with our SCV is going to be our supply depot. This is the food unit for the Terran. We're going to build one of those. Now, our SCV here, you notice, is busily building the supply depot. He's not mining, he's not harvesting anything, and so this is all that he can do. So, as a Terran, as you build your building, that SCV can't do anything else. So just kind of keep that in mind as those kind of build up. So I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna put them back on there. So our supply unit here gives us 8 supply back. You see now I'm up to 19 available supply. I'm going to make a few more SCVs here. And what's kind of a supply depot, a very handy tool if, say we go over here to my main ramp here, I can maybe make a couple SCVs and some other buildings to kind of block off this area. Well, that's not going to do me any good because then I can't get anybody out. So what we can do with here, I can actually lower the structure. There it goes underground, and now my SCV can go right across, and all my other units can go right across. And then I can lift this back up to give myself, say, a wall, and he's got to go back around. So, so that's our supply guy there. I'm going to have him start a couple others, just to kind of keep them working, and chain a couple of those together, and then I'm going to get him back on the line when he finishes on that. So, make another couple SCVs. And I'm going to pull this guy, and he's going to build our next structure. Our next structure is going to be our refinery. Refinery costs 75 minerals, and we build that right on top of our Vespene gas here on either side. So one over here, it doesn't really matter where you do it. Just drop it on there, and he starts building away. Now, so we're going to work on that, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up so that way my next SCVs I train are going to go right into the start building that gas and start harvesting that gas, because that's going to finish, because that little SCV guy in there is going to start doing just that as soon as he finishes that. So So there he goes in. Next guy kind of pops in, and there we go. Now I'm gonna start building some gas when I start collecting that, and we're gonna see what we can do with that here in just a little while longer. I'm gonna take this guy here. As soon as he finishes that, I'm actually not gonna let him build this last one. I'm gonna go ahead and pull him off, and we're gonna build some more things. There we go. Now get out of there. There you go. Fine, do what you want. You can stay and build that barracks. Okay. All right, gonna pull this guy. So, got our command center, we got our refinery up, we got some supply depots. Let's start making some buildings that give us some units. So the first one that we're gonna make here is our barracks. Barracks costs 150 minerals, so it's gonna be one of the first things that you're gonna build. Now the barracks has to be built after at least one supply depot. Can't build a barracks without at least one supply depot. And that makes sense because by the time you're done finishing your barracks, you're hopefully making enough SCVs to use up your food. So, and we're not going to be able to train anything when after that finishes. So I'm going to tell him to go back so he finishes that, because we're going to be looking at exactly what our barracks can do. If I didn't mention that, it costs 150 minerals. So we're going to look at that. So while that's being finished built, I want to go back and look at our command center. Now, the command center is a very interesting unit where we can actually load nearby SCVs, in case specifically 5 of them, in there, so that way now they are protected. So if that way if someone comes back here, I can go ahead and save some of those SCVs. Now they're not mining, so I want to unload them back in, and they go back out, and they become busy little guys back on the mineral line there, and back on my gas line too. So, all right, barracks are done. Let's take a look at our barracks. Barracks makes our most basic of units, and there's 4 units that it makes. It can make our Marine, our Marauder, our Reaper, and our Ghost. Now you notice right now, I can only make a Marine. Why can't I make these? Well, because I need an attachment onto my barracks. Now our attachments are our Tech Lab, which provides special units, as well as upgrades, and we're going to look at those here in a minute, and also our Reactor, which actually allows us to build 2 units at once. So when I was over here, I can only make 1 SCV at a time. I could queue up another one, but that SCV is got to finish before this one can work out. So, but with here, same thing. I can build a Marine. I'm going to set my rally point over here because we're going to be dealing with them a little bit later. But if I wanted to, say, build 2 Marines at a time, because I want to get some extra Marines out there and do some extra pressure, as long as I'm not building something else, I can add what we call a reactor. It costs 50 minerals and 50 gas. That's why I started the gas over there. And it builds a wonderful little reactor down over here. And he's just going to hang out there next to my barracks. And how much did that cost? I think that cost like 50. 150 and then 50. I didn't write that down. So we're going to let that guy kind of finish going on there. And then we're going to look at that and see exactly what that's going to do. We're going to build our reactor. Add-on complete. Okay, well, still can only make Marines, but hit 1, hit another one. I can now train 2 Marines at one time. I can actually get a whole queue of them up, get 10 of them training at a time. If I have the resources, if I have the supply to do that, I can go ahead and actually make those work out. I'm going to cancel those because I already got one. I don't need one. So there's another tech lab. You see, I don't have it right now, that I can add to my barracks. Now, even though I could make more than 1 barracks, if I wanted to, I can actually lift this barrack off the ground. Most Terran buildings can actually fly. Look at that. They are slow, but I can move them around. So if I need to actually move my base, I can do that. I can pick up all my buildings and move. So I'm going to make this tech lab now. And you see it allows me to go ahead and land, and it's going to immediately start building that tech lab. All right, while that's building, let's grab an SCV here. We're going to build our next structure, and that's going to be our factory. Our factory is our second unit producing structure there. And it's going to make a lot of our mechanical units. So if we look over here now, back at our barracks, I can see now I can train a Marauder, a Reaper, And can't make a ghost yet. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Set my rally point back over to there, and I'm going to go ahead and make a Marauder for 100 minerals and 25 gas and 2 food, and then a Reaper for 50 minerals and 50 gas and 1 food. We're going to talk about exactly what all these guys are going to do here when we get to the particular unit section. So you notice my my reactor over here, kind of stationary, not doing a whole lot of good to me right now, but we're going to fix that here in just a minute, as soon as our factory is done. Thank you, buddy. Just like our barracks, we can make a tech lab or a reactor for that. When we have the reactor, the only unit that we can make is our Hellion for 50. Sorry, how was that? 100 minerals and 2 food. Go ahead and make one of those. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that because no, I'm going to put that, as soon as that guy's done, I'm going to put that on the factory on the tech lab because we're going to need that here in just a second. Lift off there. And just park them wherever. Lift up. And then you see, so now I can land him. I'm going to land him right next to that tech lab. And I can't do anything with this tech lab until he lands and activates. And all of a sudden I have some upgrades. So I'm going to build a tech lab over there. So now you see I can make my siege tanks as well too for 150 minerals and 125 gas. Lots of stuff. Get that over there. The Hellions I could always make before. And my Thors, we're going to play with those later on, and they still need another building. So let's make that our next building, and we're going to get to those here in just a minute. So SCV, we're going to grab our next major building, which is part of our advanced structures now, and it's our starport for 150 minerals and 100 gas. This is my air. This is where I'm going to actually create all of my air units inside of as a Terran there. So, and just like the barracks and the factory, I will be able to attach a tech lab or a reactor to them, only one or the other. So let's look at the tech labs here, and let's see what they have available to us. For our barracks, we can research what we call combat shields, which is part of 100 minerals, 100 gas. This gives our Marines, those little guys over there, a little bit of extra life. Good thing to have, because they do a lot of damage, and it would be a shame if they die too soon. Build a tech lab on that as that finishes. I can also research Stim Pack, or just Stim as it's often called, for 100 minerals and 100 gas. This gives my Marines and my Marauders an extra ability, and we're going to play with that here a little bit later. Go ahead and research that. Our Marauders can also get concussive shells for 50 minerals and 50 gas. This slows down the enemy after they're attacked by the Marauders. Very handy if you're playing against units that are very fast, because this allows you to get more shots off because they're running slower, staying in range of the Marauders and the Marines and anyone else who's traveling with them. Very handy. And then our Nitro Pack for 50 minerals and 50 gas. This is for our Reapers, so they can move a little bit faster. We're going to see how they kind of work out a little bit later. So, all right, Starport is done. We can make our Vikings. This is going to be our bread and butter of our air superiority. We can make our Medivacs for 150 and 75 for the Vikings, 2 food, 100 and 100 for the Medivacs and 2 food. Our Ravens, 100 and 200. Our Banshees for 150 and 100. Cue that one up. And then our Battle Cruiser for 400 and 300. Huge amount of minerals to kind of make those Battle Cruisers. And plus, we're going to have an extra building that we're going to have to deal with. So you kind of notice the pattern. Each one of these has a unit that has to have an additional building. Each one have an additional building. So let's take a look at some of those here as soon as we finish up with our upgrade. So factory, notice 2 reactors. Doesn't matter where I built the reactor, as long as it's connected to the right building, it gives me these very special upgrades. For my Hellions, remember those Hellions, little fast guys? 150 minerals, 150 gas gives me the pre-igniter, or what we just call the blue flame, which gives them a +5 damage to very light units. Extremely handy thing. Plus, it just looks really cool. Siege tank for our big old siege tanks. This is our siege mode for 100 and 100. We're going to do that one because we're going to see exactly how that guy works. And then our strike cannons for our Thors. We don't need to research that right now because we don't have any Thors, and also I'm not going to be able to really show what that looks like, so we'll leave that one alone. But for 150 of both minerals and gas, you'll be able to work with that. So, all right, to round it out, our tech lab for our starport gives us our medevacs to have a little bit of extra energy, so that way they can get into the battle a little bit faster. They're not going to travel there any faster, but they're going to be able to do more work without running out of energy. And we'll see what that energy does here a little bit later. Research that for 100 of each of our resources. For 150 of both of those, our Raven's abilities are going to be a little bit more powerful. For 150 again, our Raven is actually going to learn a new ability called Seeker Missile. And we're going to go ahead and do that one so we can get that later. 150 again of each. Our Ravens start with 25 extra energy, again to be more useful earlier. And for 200 minerals and gas, our Banshees are going to be able to cloak. And research that one because we're going to see how that actually kind of works out on there. Great ability for those. So those are our tech labs. Those are going to be your main, very unique upgrades for Terran. Mostly giving you new abilities as well as just supplementing their current abilities on there. Each one of these I could drop onto the reactor, and any of those units that I can make without a tech lab attached, which if you remember on our factory is our Hellion, our barracks is our Marine, and for our starport we actually get two. We get our Vikings and our medevacs. Both don't need a tech lab, so we can actually pump out two of those at a time. So you start combining these and you get a couple barracks and maybe a couple factories and maybe one of them with a tech lab and a couple of them with reactors, and you can start pushing out a lot of units very, very fast and able to repopulate your army if you have a bad engagement with that. And as always, all of these can lift off and be dropped back down to their appropriate structure. There you go. I'm running out of minerals, but that's okay. So I want to go back to our command center here for a second, and I'm actually going to have this guy build a command center, which costs us 400 minerals. It's great. I mean, this is a very common practice for Terran to actually build your town hall inside of your main base. Pay attention, no attention to that, to the man behind the curtain. Build the base over here and then lift it off just like we saw before, and then drop it back over to your expansion, just so that way it's protected. You don't have to protect it while it's being built. You can go ahead and build it in the safety of your main, and then bring over your reinforcements after the fact. The reason I'm building that one is because we're going to be actually morphing these into a couple different abilities, a couple different buildings. To do that, for one of them, I'm actually going to build a building over here that we're going to play with here in just a moment. Our command center, the first one that can be morphed into is our orbital command for 150 minerals. When I morph this in there, we get a wonderful little animation. It's going to make that look kind of cool. And we're going to get some cool new abilities with our town hall here. We're going to be able to scan an area that we've never seen before. We're going to be able to get us some extra supply if we're running low. We can also mine our minerals faster. But it can no longer load those SCVs like we saw before. So let's take a look at those abilities that we have. So the first one, and probably the most important for Terran players, is the Mule. This costs 50 energy. Now that we have our orbital command, it actually has a little energy bar. Kind of see that underneath there, and it's also here on our UI. And for 50 energy, I can call down this Mule onto a mineral patch. And now he is going to mine. So it's pretty much like a free SCV that's only around for a little while, but he's very fast, and he collects energy. He collects minerals faster and more per trip. So every time he comes back, he's getting us more minerals than just one SCV by itself. Really handy if you have the energy to couple of those. Very easy to get ahead if you're running behind on minerals. Drop a couple mules. If you start a new expansion, just go ahead and drop a couple mules before your SCVs are transferred over. So that way you have those for a new ability. So Our next one is to call down some extra supplies for our supply depots. What we do on this one, I'm actually not going to do it because I'm going to be running low on energy here. We select that. We select one of our supply depots, and we actually get 2 supply depots worth with 1 unit. They can still burrow, even though it's going to be something that's literally sitting on top of them. But now we have extra ones. So if all of a sudden we find that there were supply blocked, what we call supply blocked, when we no longer have any supply, we can easily get ourselves some more supply. The last one is also very helpful. It's our scanner sweep. So let's say that I haven't scouted over here in a while, and I want to see what my opponent is doing. I can sweep and see exactly what's going on. So that area is now exposed here for a couple seconds. They do see an animation when they do it. It's not this big, it's not that as noticeable, but they do see an animation. So they will know when they're being scanned. Not a whole lot that they can do about it. They're just gonna know that they're doing it, so they know that you know something. So very handy. These are the mule and the sweep are going to be the 2 that you're really going to be using a whole lot of. If you're needing to use the extra supplies, you're probably doing something a little bit wrong, and you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your supply depots and your food supply to make sure you're not going over. I'm going to take my other command center here, and I'm going to turn it into our other type of fortress here, our planetary fortress for 100 minerals and 150 minerals and 150 gas. This gives us a couple new abilities. Not really direct abilities. What it does, it give it more armor, so it's going to be more less susceptible to damage. It's going to be able to take more damage. It's also going to be able to actually attack units. With the trade-off, you can't lift it. So right now, he's stuck. Unless I cancel this, I'm not going to be able to move this anymore. So if you're going to build in your base, move it before you change it. So I'm going to bring SCV over here, and he's going to be our sacrificial lamb. So he's all done. And I'm going to say, you know what? I want you to attack him. So there you go. Big old guns on top of it, and now he's going to look around. He's going to make sure, so if enemies start coming in here, we'll be able to shoot them off. This is great for your expansion, especially if you have one pretty far away from your main base, and you're going to be hard-pressed to get reinforcements, because he's going to be able to defend himself pretty well. Not completely on his own. He's going to be able to take a beating, but he will go down with enough units, so you definitely want to get some defenses around there. But he'll have some ammunition to add after that. So look at me, I'm out of minerals. I am such a bad player. Look at this. I have so many minerals left. That's good. So let's look at some of our other units. And you know what? Just to be safe, I'm going to build another refinery here. Start him working on that, and then I'll get some more gas just in case I need. So this is our first main upgrade building. Every race has a building kind of like this. This is a Terran. The engineering bay costs 125 minerals. This is going to be our upgrades for our barracks units. So everything that's going to be coming out of this guy over here is going to be able to get something from here. Mostly is just for usually a mixture of a gas and minerals. We can upgrade their weapons and upgrade their armor. Also, this also handles our buildings. So, and some other things. So we're going to be able to add some extra range to things like our planetary fortress, as well as some of our other ones, and giving us a little bit of extra space in our command centers and our bunkers, which we're going to look at here really soon, and then also giving our buildings themselves a little bit more armor. These actually have 3 levels, so each one requires the next one. So this one that's there. And you see now the next one actually requires this one to be finished, as well as our next building, which is our armory, which is part of our advanced structure here. 150 minerals, 100 gas. Let's start building our armory here. This is pretty much the engineering bay, but it is for our factory and our starport. So getting them some extra weapon attack, as well as armor upgrades. These two do kind of work in tandem. So if you're watching like someone cast a stream, and you hear them talking about, oh, he's got 2-1 Marines, or he's he's got 3-3, and this one's only got 2-2. These are the upgrades that they're talking about. That refers to their attack and then their armor. So. And then, when you're first getting started, don't worry about them too much. But as the game progresses, you definitely want to get these upgrades, because they're going to want people to turn the tide of your battle. So here we go inside of the armory. One for weapons, one for armor, ship weapons from your starport, and ship armor there. So let me grab one of these guys there. So engineering bay, armory, very important. And now that I have that armory, and as soon as that finishes, I could do that level 2, and then get that third one later on. So we got some extra fun buildings. Moving on now. Next one we got here is what we call our fusion core. Our fusion core is kind of a twofold unit building. It allows us to get upgrades for that battle cruiser that we can make in our starport, and it's also going to allow us to build the actual battlecruiser itself. So I'm going to drop this guy over here because I am a big dummy, and I put the engineering bay right in the way of my tech lab because I can't move that one. So don't be like me, kids, and put your engineering bay in the way of an actual building. You don't want that. While that is building and finishing, let me grab another guy here, and we're going to build our next building, our Ghost Academy. Oh, by the way, I forgot about this one. Our armory over here is what allows us to build Thors out of our factory. Let's build a Thor. Those are fun. 300 minerals and 200 gas. You're not going to see too many of these out on the field. And while you're playing, if you see a whole lot of them, run away, because it's going to be really, really ugly. And we're going to see how those kind of play out here in just a moment. And there's our battle cruiser available. I can build a battle cruiser now because I have that fusion core. Okay, that's that over there. So fusion core gives me the abilities to our battlecruiser to have more energy, which is always good. Actually, I don't need that. But also to actually fire a secondary weapon called the Yamato cannon. So, and that's a very pretty thing. We're going to see how that kind of works out. Look at that play. Look at that. It's just working. Oh, there goes the Thor. All right, so we got our Ghost Academy. Ghost Academy up. As you can probably guess, this allows us to train our ghosts out of our barracks. Set that over there. Okay, so but this also handles my upgrades for the ghost. I can do cloaking. I can cloak my ghost, and we're going to see why that's important. And also giving us our ghost starting energy. More energy at the beginning, as you see before, is better because that means they're going to be able to get into the fight and do more stuff sooner. Our Ghost Academy also gives us nukes. This is the thing that really makes Terran really neat, is this nuke. We're going to go ahead and research that. The nuke is an ability for the ghost, and we're going to see how that kind of works. Important thing about the nuke is that you can only have one per Ghost Academy. Build only one Ghost Academy, you get one nuke. You build 3, you got 3 nukes. Great. So keep that in mind. If you're wanting to work with the nukes, you're going to want to build a Ghost Academy. Think of this as exactly where it's going to be launching that that nuke off of. So let's see how that kind of works out. So so that takes us through our main buildings, our main production buildings, our barracks, our factory, and then our starport, and their respective upgrades through their tech labs. And then also our main 2 upgrades buildings, our engineering bay for our barracks units, and our armory for our factory and our starport. So you can kind of see why these names actually kind of make sense. So that's why people sometimes like Terran, is because it's very easy to pick up, because you're like, okay, well, my factory, I need upgrades for my factory. Armory, oh, armory, yeah, that makes sense because I'm doing something that has a lot of metal and armor. I need a fusion core. I need my fusion core so that way I can build, the Thors and the battle cruisers, like these huge units. They're going to need, you know, big old fusion core. So is my nuke done? Nuke's almost done. Not quite yet, though. So that'll be done soon enough. So, and we got a couple really cool extra buildings that the Terran have available to them. One of which, and I'm going to actually do this over here because we're going to need these units for that, is going to be our bunker. Our bunker, horrible place for a bunker. Let's put the bunker in a good spot. This will be a good spot for a bunker. Our bunker is a nice little defensive structure that costs 100 minerals, not too expensive, and it's going to give some of our units some extra range, as well as extra protection because it's a bunker. That's what it does. So let's take our Marauder over here and our Marine. And we're going to see what we can do with that. That bunker's almost done. And I'm going to take this Marine and I'm going to right click on the bunker and boom, there you go. He is now inside of that bunker. See, there's 4 slots inside of here, 4 little spots. And now this Marine is protected. If anyone wants to hurt him, they actually got to break down the bunker first, then they'll be able to attack. He also has a little bit of extra range. So when before, if he was standing like right here next to the bunker, he'd probably only be able to shoot to about here. Now inside the bunker, you'd probably be able to shoot about out to here. So if I take the Marauder though and bring it here into the bunker, no problem. Look, he takes up 2 spots. Marauders are big guys. So they're going to be taking up a little bit more space, but they're going to be able to do a lot of firepower inside of that. So, and we can unload those guys. And we're going to put them back in line there. So there's the bunker. Maybe have a couple bunkers. Make, you know, your enemy kind of funnel in or try to get rid of this while you're attacking like from the high ground. So very impressive structure for the defensive minded. So another defensive tool here is we have our missile turret. Unique thing about the missile turret is that is what we call a detector. The detector will actually reveal units that have some sort of cloaking, in the case of the Terran and the Protoss, or are burrowed underground like some of the Zergs. Zergs, yes, can burrow underground. Think about that for your nightmares. And this will actually show those, so then the rest of our units would be able to see them and attack them. Without a detector unit, won't be able to see them. They can just run amok. It doesn't even matter. So very important if you notice that they have some units that can burrow underground. Like for example, for the Zerg, if they're doing Roach, they have Roaches, or they're Protoss and they have Dark Templars, or if you're playing against a Terran and they have Ghosts or Banshees, they all of those can cloak, but this will show them. And this will only fire also to air, so it will attack any air unit that comes into play, but it can't shoot anything ground, can't shoot down, only shoots up into the air. So another destructive one, usually you have those maybe kind of back here where your mineral line, well, it was until I completely mined it out, so that way they don't come in from, you know, way over here or way over here and like mess with your guys there. So next, and certainly not least of our structures, yeah, I think I got all of them. Yep, got all of them there. Last one here is our sensor tower. Another unit, another building, very unique. Horrible placement. Don't look to me for the placement of these buildings. Not good. Like this, no. This is very bad, especially with a big gun back here that can't do anything. So our sensor tower, though, is kind of a detector, but not quite. As far as I know, I don't think it's actually an honest-to-goodness detector. No, it's not. But what we have with our sensor tower is, if we look at our minimap, we have like a little line. If we go out here, we can actually see this line. If any enemy units cross this line into this circle, I can't see them. We don't know what they are. We just know something's coming. It's like a radar, pretty much. So, you know, I can then say, oh, well, they're coming from over here, so I better bring some units down this way. Or they're coming from this direction, so I better reinforce over here. So handy tool if you're really paranoid about that. So those are our buildings. all of those. A lot of these are required to be built, like we talked about how the barracks have to be built after the supply depot. Same thing is true for the factory. The factory has to be built after the barracks, and the starport has to be built after the factory. Our engineering buildings pretty much can do what can be built whenever, although the armory needs to be built, I believe, after the engineering bay. So, oh no, don't quote me on that. Some of the upgrades require the armory. So you don't need any of those. So, but we saw how certain units like the Thor requires the fusion core and the armory there. So, because it makes sense. It makes sense. Just think about that. It just makes sense. So there's our buildings. Like we talked about, most of them, like our upgrade buildings really can't move. Our Ghost Academy can't move. Our Planetary Fortress cannot lift off. But our 3 main buildings here can all lift off. Well, not the Planetary Fortress anymore, because or Orbital Command. And I can just move them wherever I want, and then just land them. Yeah, wherever we want. So we'll just leave them be. They'll just hang out. That'd be great. All right, let's take a look at the units. All right, so we talked about, let's start with our SCV, our little SCV guy here. Super important. You notice how you built every one of those buildings. Extremely tiring guy. Look at that. That's why he's got beer in the back there, because he's he's a hard worker and a redneck apparently. So little guy here, but he does more than just build and mine. For our armored units, like say for example for our siege tank here, if I'm gonna go ahead and attack, and he does, our SCVs can repair. Right click on that, and then as soon as he sees a structure or a mechanical unit that it can reach that needs to be repaired, he will heal it up. Look, good as new. Great little guy. Alright, so there's our SCV, and if you remember, our SCV made by town halls, orbital commands, planetary fortress, or just command centers. Doesn't matter which one, all 3 of them can make our SCVs. So next bit, I'm going to zoom in here so we can get a good look at the guys. Our Marine. Our Marine is our bread and butter infantry unit. You can see lots of Marines. In fact, there's some players that are making their mark in StarCraft using Marines almost completely. So, very powerful unit, has the highest DPS, the highest damage per second as any other unit. Get these guys in a group, they will just wipe the floor. But don't have a whole lot of health. 55 health. That's it. And that, I believe, is even... Did we get the actual upgrade? I don't think we did. I'm going to drop that back down. You go over there. 55 health. Yeah, that was with combat shields. So, not a whole lot of health. So they get taken out pretty fast, but they do a whole lot of damage in the meantime. So there's our Marine. Great tool. Give them a pack of them together and do a lot of damage. Its bigger brother, the Marauder, has a lot more armor, so he's going to take a lot more damage, and he has a lot more health to 125, so almost twice that health. No, yeah, twice the health of the Marine. So he's going to do a lot more damage. Plus, you can do that concussive shells, which are going to slow down the unit. So if you got units running away and you're chasing, we got some Marauders. They can get a shot off. Now they're slow, but if they get a shot off, they are going to slow those guys down, so that way the Marines and everyone else can do a little bit more damage. They're just a little bit bigger. So. Our Marines and Marauders, if you remember, we gave them a new ability called Stim, or Stim Pack. This particular ability costs health. For the Marauder, it's 20 health. For the Marines, it's 10 health. What it gets us is a faster unit. So if he's moving back and forth, I'm going to have him come back this way, and when I Stim, see, he moves a lot faster. Plus, he's going to do more damage because he's going to be able to shoot a lot faster. Really great for the Marauders because they're slow and they shoot really slow. So the Stim Pack is going to put them right back, kind of there, along with what other units can actually shoot. So they're going to do a lot more damage. You get a whole bunch of Marines and you stim them right as you engage. even more powerful, but at the cost of health. And you saw that guy kind of act in, and we'll see what he kind of does. So then you can do this for both of them. So you have them both in a control group. You can go ahead and stim, and they'll all stim together. Look how fast they run. So there's our Marauders and our Marines. Again, the main kind of workhorse of really most of your infantry. So our next barracks unit was our Reaper. Our Reaper here is a very fast unit. See how fast he goes. And what's really unique about the Reaper, I'm going to take these units over here. I'm going to bring them over here. And if I wanted to get back up here, I'm just going to go ahead and right click with all of them up there, and I want you to watch what's going on. The Marine and Marauder is going to have to go all the way back around, but my Reaper can go right up. So our Reaper can actually jump up and down cliffs. Very handy if you want to put this early in the game and maybe come back and sneak over. It probably actually would end up doing this depending on the map from the other side, and get up here and do some damage to their supply line or to some of their tech buildings and try to kind of take those out. So very fast, even faster if we research that nitro boost from the tech lab connected to the barracks. So pretty handy, and they do a little bit of extra damage to buildings too. So that's pretty handy if you want to actually take out those buildings. So there's our Reaper, great little guy. Of course, he can go into the bunker as well too, and just like the Marine, only takes one spot. So got our Ghost. Man, that Ghost was expensive. Our Ghost actually takes, I haven't even talked about that. Ghost takes 200 minerals on 100 gas to train. So he is a very important unit. He is expensive, so you're not going to see too many of these out there because it's just going to be so prohibitive to get too many of them. But can be a very powerful unit. They shoot very slow, but very powerful. Couple shots can take out most small enemies. They come with the ability called Sniper Round, which gives which does 45 damage. Now, if you remember, those Marines have 55 health. That's it. So this will take a Combat Shields Marine almost down to 0, like only down to 10 health. We'll take him out completely. Just kill him in one shot if you can get that shot off. Now it takes 25 energy, so you have that limited amount, but it will recharge. So if he stays alive, you can do that. So another ability that it has, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna bring this guy over here, and I'm gonna bring my Medevac over here. Our Medevac uses energy, and our sniper, our Ghost has a great ability that does just horrendous damage to these units that use energy. It's called EMP, and as you can guess, it takes out their energy. So drop that, and look at that. All of a sudden, that EMP, he has took out half of his energy, took out 100 energy, and he recharges energy at a much slower rate. If you're playing against Protoss, this will also take out their shields. Very dangerous tool. So there's the EMP. Takes a lot of energy though from the Ghost, so we're not going to use it very often. So, and now we get to the really cool parts. We can cloak our Ghost. So now, on here, you see it's kind of see-through. For our enemy, completely transparent. They might see like a shimmer, but they can't select them. And without those detector units, like the missile tower, the missile turret, they won't be able to know even what's going on. And so this Ghost can just kind of walk around in the base freely. Now he's losing energy. If we don't decloak and recharge that energy, and he's in the middle of a group, he's going to get taken out really fast. Not a whole lot of health, not a whole lot of armor, even with the upgrades. So he's going to die off pretty fast. Now, why cloak? I mean, yeah, we can shoot, and it's great to kind of snipe enemies and everything like that, but that's not really why we cloak. We cloak really for one reason only, and that is the most quintessential part of being a Terran, and that is the nuke. Now, you can quote me on that. I think the nuke is the coolest thing that you can get. You're wondering why these guys are over here, and you probably have an idea on exactly what I'm going to do to those poor SCVs. So with our Ghost, it's a good idea to be cloaked while you're doing this, because our nuke, it takes 20 seconds for our nuke to go from clicking it to actually landing. And during that time, the Ghost cannot move, we cannot cancel that, and we cannot, obviously he can't die. If any of those things happen, if he dies or if we cancel it or if he moves, the nuke is just lost. So those resources that we spent to generate the nuke back at the Ghost Academy are completely lost, and we have to build another nuke. Yeah, go ahead and decloak because not any point on there. So let's see when we do this tactical nuke strike. And oh my goodness, that's a huge red target. And we're going to go ahead and just try to drop that. And we get this. Now, our enemy will not see this. What they would see is a very small red dot on their screen. Good players will see it. Bad players may not. And if they don't, big bada boom. That obviously took out all these SCVs. Of course, they're SCVs. Take out most units in there, except for maybe these big heavy ones. Take out, if it gets a good hit on some of these buildings, it does extra damage even to buildings. So if you could ghost in cloak in a couple ghosts, and you had a couple ghost academies with a couple nukes, drop a couple of them there, you can absolutely just clear out their tech and all their unit producing structures. So if you watch any things like MLG or IPL or big tournaments, if they do that nuke, it's always a crowd pleaser. People hoot and ha. They don't even care if they like the person. They just like seeing stuff just blow up. So that's the Ghost. That's what it's used for. Usually if you see the Ghost, you're going to expect some nukes. And so that's what they do. So there was our barracks unit. So there's the 4 main barracks units there. Marines, which we can have the reactor on and just pump out 2 Marines over and over again, and then our Marauders, our Reapers, which we can make as long as we have the Tech Lab, and then our Ghost for after we build that Ghost Academy. And most of them get their upgrades from the Tech Lab, except for the Ghost that gets them from the Ghost Academy, and then all of them get from the engineering base. So next one is our factory units. Where'd our factory go? Oh yeah, factory's still flying. Okay, so factory units. Let's start with the Hellion. Very fast unit. And move him out of the way. Actually, get him over here. Very fast unit, and everyone loves fire. Look at that. Oh, look at my SCV. I forgot he's still on repair. So, not doing a whole lot of damage to that siege tank, because our fire, as you can guess, doesn't do a whole lot of damage to metal, but does a whole lot of damage to soft, squishy flesh. So, light units have take extra damage from the Hellion, and if we research that blue flame Hellion, that blue flame from our tech lab that connected to our factory, do even more damage. So a group of these in a pack are a great way to harass either an expansion or an early mineral line. So a very handy unit to have with that. Can kill off small units very, very fast. So our next factory unit was our siege tank. I don't remember now. Let's talk about the siege tank anyway. Siege tank. Big, slow, shoots, and but can't shoot up. That's the problem. Can't shoot up. I cannot attack flying units. I can only attack ground units here with our siege tank. Siege tank here. Siege tank costs 150 minerals and 125 gas to build. Unique about them, they can siege. Now when we go into siege mode here, what you can see I cannot do is move around anymore. I get this nice little line, kind of like our sensor tower, but really what that is its range of attack. So when before it can only attack maybe about out to here, now it can attack all the way out to here, with one exception. Can't attack close. I can't, like right now, attack that Hellion. Too close. A little bit of a blind spot. Move out. Let's see here. See? I can attack him. There you go. Just close enough, I think, to get in there. So there's a bit of a blind spot with the siege tanks. Now, yeah, we can unsiege. And there you go. See, now I can attack him, but I don't have the range all the way out to here as I would have had in siege mode. So it's kind of like a give or take with the siege tank there. So what's my last fact? What's my other factory one? Oh, the Thor, of course. What am I thinking? It's the Thor. Huge Thor, apparently voiced by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but nice big unit, can see just dwarfs other units in comparison. Does a lot of damage. very hard to kill, does a ton of damage, and if you research the strike cannons back in the factory attack lab, it will do a ton of damage over 500 damage in 6 seconds. So great for taking down structures if you can get them. Not great, so great for units. And again, can only target ground units. So can't shoot up. Big guns like that, apparently didn't want to, do that arm, so he gets them a little bit higher there. So only shoot those ground units. So there's our factory units. Our Hellion, nice and fast. Our Siege, slow. Great for give them like a defensive line, so that way this entire area would be covered. Or if you're attacking, siege kind of around here and literally just siege their base so they can't expand anymore. And then the Thor. Take a group of Thors out there, and it doesn't matter who you're playing against. They're gonna take pause because they're just huge units, and they're going to take a long time to kill, and they know they can do a whole lot of damage. So, all right, let's take a look at our starport units. Get the most units out of our starport. The first one that we have is our Banshee. With our Banshee can only attack ground units. Yeah, you heard that right. Air unit can only attack ground units, cannot attack other air units. So it's great for kind of reinforcing kind of like your Hellions and your Marines and your Marauders do a lot of attack. Plus, oh, don't tell me I didn't do that. Okay, apparently I didn't do cloak. I probably canceled it. So you can also cloak with our Banshees. So get a Banshee, cloak, go in and mess with your base until they get those detector units like the missile turret or certain other units that are detectors. There you're just gonna be able to just like start picking off buildings or picking off units. So another great tool to kind of harass your opponent. And we got our medevac too. Medevac, very important unit, especially if you're going with a lot of units from your barracks. It's a great supplement to that. And the reason why is because they are, what do I have in there? That's a Reaper. Where's my Marines? There we go. This is your healing unit. Now, if your biological units, we saw the SCV can heal like a mechanical unit, like a siege tank or a Hellion, but our biological units don't regenerate health. And so like our stim takes health. Well, we don't want less health, so if we compare them with a medevac here, I stim up those guys, our medevac immediately jumps in and heals them back up to full. Get a couple medevacs together, you can keep a small army running pretty healthy, and even if they get taken out, you got a couple others and you can pull back. Speaking of pulling back, our medevac is also our dropship. So if I take my units and right click on my medevac, you see now I have them inside of the ship itself, and I can fly around wherever I want. Just like the bunker, things like our Marines and our Reapers are going to fill in one spot, while our Marauders and our Ghosts, if we put our Ghost inside of our bunker, for example, we'll see that it also takes up 2 space. I know, big guy takes up 2 spaces, makes sense. Skinny guy like the Ghost, I guess just because he's got the big gun, he needs two spots. But now my medevac, I can take this and then I can unload. Let's say that we're gonna unload up here. Come on. There you go. Wrong click. Unload those, and then do some damage inside of the base. So do this again behind their main lines. Can also be used to just save them. Bad engagement. Save them, fly off. It'll take a second for them. They're like, oh, I gotta fire at the medevac. But by the time your medevac's already long gone. So it can be a very powerful tool with combined with your biological army there. Can't pick up. Actually, no, never mind. No, you can. You can pick up a Hellion. I know, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Can't pick up a siege tank. I don't think so. That'd be really funny if I could. I don't think you can. Oh my goodness, I can pick up a siege tank. I don't know why you would really want to. Now I'm just really going to try. I really don't... Wait, can I really? I could pick up a Thor. Totally forgot about that. And the Thor is just kind of hanging out underneath the medevac. I only got 1 Thor in there. That's pretty obvious. What if I have a group of medevacs, which ones have Thors in them? But makes them a little bit faster. That's just too funny. I can pick up a Thor. Just kind of like hanging out. Anyway, so there's your medevac. Our next one is our Raven. A Raven is a detector unit. So this is a mobile kind of missile turret. And that analogy is going to go very far here. It's a detector, so that's a big thing. The interesting about the Raven is it really never attacks on its own. It has an auto turret, where I can go ahead and just drop this. And now that will just attack anything that gets inside of its range. It's got a limited time span. But it'll just go ahead and sit there and attack. I can also drop what we call the point defense drone, which now that will just hang out right there. And if anyone tries to shoot, the point defense drone will shoot it down with lasers. It's kind of like shooting out asteroids on there. So, and our last one we have is our secret missile. And again, man, I forgot to train that. Secret missile is kind of cool. We get that from our tech labs in our starport. Our secret missile, when we fire that at a unit, and say I'd fire it at this Hellion, for example, it would actually follow the Hellion until either A, it runs out of fuel, which is in about 15 seconds, or it makes contact. So, got a group of Ravens, shoot a whole bunch of secret drones at a group, and they're just going to go off and they're going to chase those, and they're going to try to split off and do a whole lot of splash damage. So, very handy tool to have, especially being a detector. So that way you're not getting caught, you know, with your pants down by any ghosts or burrowed units. So we got our Viking next. Viking is kind of your bread and butter air unit. You're going to probably have the most of these, besides maybe medevacs, because it can do the air or ground. Yes, or ground, not both. So while it's in the air, it can shoot air, but if you want to attack on the ground, you put it on the ground, and you have a little mechanical duck of death. Kind of looks like a duck. And you can put them right back into the air. Don't see too many Vikings down on the ground. Don't do a whole lot of extra damage down there. Seems like there's a lot of usually better units that do that. But pretty versatile unit. Nevertheless, can do a lot of really good damage with that. So last but definitely not least, our battle cruiser. Big, expensive, slow. Lots of damage though. Let's just see what he can like. For being such a big unit, he shoots awfully fast. Look at how much health that took before the SCV even got like half of his health. So now we train this. I know we got this one. 300 damage from the Yamato cannon. Let's see what it does to that Thor. Little SCV guy. You can have a lot of SCVs, you know, trying to, if I didn't kill them all, of course. Yeah, I killed them all. SCVs can, you know, really do however many you want. Can pretty much take up any mechanical structure or unit and get it back up to full health and very fast. So there's your battle cruiser, big one. You're gonna get a fleet of those. Pretty much just go. You control the air at that point, unless they got a whole lot of units. And but since they're slow, they're pretty vulnerable. So you got to be careful with that. So there are our air units, and there are our Terran buildings and units. I don't think I missed anything. Nope, Banshee, Battlecruiser, Ravens. Yep, got all those. And so as you see, very familiar names, battlecruisers. So you think in your head, what's a battlecruiser? Well, that's a battlecruiser. And oh yeah, there you go, that's a battlecruiser. Well, what's a Thor? Well, it's a Norse god of lightning. Well, okay, not exactly. It's a huge walking death machine, but you get the idea. Hits hard and has a funny accent. So there's our Terran units. A lot of the big benefits that people like also about the Terran is they have a really good economy. With the orbital command and those mules, it's very easy to generate a lot of minerals. And plus, if you get into a bind, you have the supply call downs. So usually the Terran economy is usually a little bit ahead of the other races' economy because of those mules, as well as they have a lot of units that do a lot of damage very cheaply. Remember those Marines? 50 minerals, and they do the best DPS in the game in a big group. So take this, put it on a reactor, pump out a ton of Marines, you got a lot of damage very, very fast. So that's why some people really like the Terran, because it's very easy to kind of get a good build. It's kind of hard to kind of screw it up. It's also really great at playing very defensively. Like we have the bunkers and we have the missile turrets. So very easy to be very defensive with it. And turtle, we're just going to come into your shell being your base or your expansion, your natural expansion and your base, and not come out and just wait out your enemy. Not the best thing, not going to win you any tournaments, not going to win you any friends either, but it's a pretty valid strategy as well. So if you're looking for Terrans to watch online, I can definitely recommend Vile Hashi from Team Vile, from Vile Gaming. Also, D Muslim is a very good player, and if you hear him talk, he's British, so it sounds absolutely wonderful. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more fun, Marine King Pro from Korea, you can kind of guess what his big thing is. He does a lot of Marine play, so you can check him out. He's very popular on Reddit. He's even won some tournaments for being pretty much a complete unknown. Was just a huge surprising. So there are your Terran units. Next time we're going to be taking a look at the Protoss units, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to sort of break down each one of their structures individually, talk about some very basic strategies with this. Notice we didn't talk about, oh well, you got to build some of these at this and then go from there and then that's your, we're not going to talk about that. That's not what we do. Again, as always, go check out things like Day 9 and his Day 9 dailies. Go on to teamliquid.com and go to the Liquidpedia and look at reviews on there. Go find streams as they stream and really listen to what they have to say and what they're going to do. So until next time, this is Apollo 7, and go have fun. Always have fun while you're playing. Have a good day.